recently watching the King of Kongs, A Fistful of Quarters, for like the 15th time. And if you haven't seen it before, it's about Billy Mitchell, who has the world record at the time on Donkey Kong, over 1,000,000 points, and a challenger, Steve Wiebe, who beat that record, but then there's all kinds of shady shenanigans going on in the background, back and forth. He goes to Twin Galaxies to play. Long story short, Steve Wiebe wins post-credits. So, I thought Steve Wiebe was the champion, and I haven't thought about it in years, until I just came across Twin Galaxies records for Donkey Kong again, because I love to play Donkey Kong. And I saw that Hank Chen had beat both of their records, and he's not even the champ anymore. There's been dozens of champs, and now Wes Copeland is the new heavyweight champion. Not to be confused with WWE former heavyweight champion Adam Copeland, and not to be confused with U2's The Edge. Anyway, I digress. Back to the documentary, which is really enjoyable. I highly suggest you go check it out if you haven't seen it before. So I got to Googling to see who all the high scores were now, and I saw that there's this tournament called Con-Off, and they're up to 4 or 5. And there's like the top 20 highest scorers now. If you look on it, Steve Wiebe and Billy Mitchell are barely cracking the top 20. So I decided to see, where does myself, Handsome McGee, stack up with these guys. So this is going to be my King of Kongs, A Fistful of Quarters, Loch Ness Monster Challenge. Let's see how well I can do. Now, as a youngster, I grew up in the 80s. I remember playing Donkey Kong on the Atari 2600. I remember playing it on the Coleco and playing it on the NES, as well as in the arcade. Now, I saw most of the records are set on Twin Galaxies Donkey Kong arcade cabinet, personal arcade cabinets at home that have been verified. And speaking of verification, again, if you watch the documentary, like, people break into this guy's house to check his board. It's ridiculous. It's really entertaining. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and you can play it on a MAME cabinet. Again, everything has to be verified. You have to send in all kinds of pictures. But I know I'm not gonna get into the millions. This is more of a fun try, just to see how well I do. So I'm playing this on freekong.org, and you basically use the arrows and the spacebar to play. And it's free to play. You can tell by the name. So if you want to try and put up a score or just play Donkey Kong for fun, I suggest using this site because it's pretty faithful. I've been to other websites where there's no hammers, where there's tons of hammers, where Mario can take a few hits. So this one is pretty faithful to the arcade version. So I'm going to be using this as my score, and you can see in the bottom corner, 52,000 is my best score so far. Like, I know there's tons of tricks where you like use the hammers and jump over the barrels, but Donkey Kong's pretty tricky. So I'm just basically trying to beat the levels. So the first thing I noticed is the Pie Factory is level 2. I was always under the assumption that the Spring Jacks, the escalator or elevator stage was the second level, but it's gonna show up. So this is level 2 right now. And again, I didn't move the mouse. To me, it wasn't as obvious that there was that big yellow dot on it, the indicator, the highlighter right there. So I will move it eventually, and if I ever try to record another mediocre score, I will definitely put the mouse on a different side of the screen. And you can see here, like, I've played this version before on freekong.org, and Donkey Kong's never blocked me in so bad. Where the hell is that fireball going? Donkey Kong's never blocked me in that bad before, but another level beat. Doing well. 10,000 points. Sip of coffee. Now, I've played, again, like I mentioned, I've used this website a few times, and this is the second or third time that this has happened. When you get to this, let's call it the escalator stage, the ski lift stage, the volume is just constantly, Mario dying, and you hear those Spring Jacks, those bouncy items going over and over again, so I have to lower the volume a little bit. It gets pretty annoying, but, if you turn the volume off for this level, it's still fine. It doesn't happen all the time, but to me, I found it annoying. Patience. Go, go, Buffalo. Yes! So I double-checked they are springs, and it is called the elevator stage. So after round 4, after you beat the rivet stage, which I'm on now for the first time, the springs really ramp up their speed, and there is a pattern that you have to see. But, like most players, I'm talking about myself, I just go with gut feeling, and I run for it when I think it's the safest to beat the springs. Not the best strategy for a high score, but, you know. I was talking with some friends on Facebook last night, too, in Gaming Nation Network, and people were talking. I put up the picture of what the thumbnail was going to be in anticipation for this video coming out, and they started talking about Billy Mitchell a lot, how he seems to be kind of like an ass. He's the antagonist in the movie, and how some people say he hasn't watched the documentary, and then other people would retort saying, yeah, he obviously had to if he knows he was painted in such a poor light. But if you want to see Billy Mitchell being interviewed fairly recently, I'll leave a link down in the description. My buddy Bill actually got to interview him in Iowa a couple of months back. I mentioned it before, but if you haven't seen it, it's really worth a watch. It's interesting. Give you your dose of Wikipedia. So it says Donkey Kong is an arcade game released by Nintendo in 1981, an early example of the platform game genre. The gameplay focuses on maneuvering the main character across a series of platforms while dodging and jumping over obstacles. In the game, Mario, originally named Jumpman, must rescue a damsel in distress named Paulina from a giant ape named Donkey Kong. The hero and the ape later become two of Nintendo's most popular and recognizable characters. Donkey Kong is one of the most important titles from the golden age of arcade video games, and is one of the most popular arcade games of all time. It is now an inductee into the Video Game Hall of Fame. That's interesting. You know, another thing that I noticed about some of these websites, these 80s games, these old arcade cabinets, like, again, like going back to the documentary, and there was other documentaries like the Pac-Man one, Chasing Ghosts. It's really about just getting a few points better each time, and it's a lot of pixel measurement, because I was checking out this site on how to be really good at Donkey Kong. Like, they show you how to exploit jumping over barrels, how to use the hammer to get the maximize points on ghosts, and on like this, like the Pie Factory level. It's really about measuring pixels, like really down to like the height of Mario's hat. They were talking about how to beat the ghost on the elevator stage, how to deke them out, how to bring them down past certain girders, how to manipulate the barrels by standing in front of the ladder and then pulling left and turning right quickly, which I guess using the joystick would be an asset. But this is like, people have really fine-tuned their game. So, like, I think, like, if I really stuck it out, I could probably get to 100,000 eventually. Spoiler alert, I don't make it to 100,000 in this video. Really trying to work on my view time retention. I've noticed most videos get about 70% retention, so that's pretty damn good, but it could always be better. Trying to make the videos a little shorter, so if you've actually watched this far, let me know down in the comments what your favorite arcade cabinet is. It doesn't have to be from the golden age, it could be anything. You know, like, for me, I'd probably say mine is Double Dragon, although I do love Pac-Man and Donkey Kong. So, obviously I'm playing this at work. I've got all my report cards done, don't worry, I'm in good shape. So I'm playing this during the latter half of a planning period, and one of my buddies walks in, so you'll notice I'll start talking to somebody. They're trying to distract me, and they're surprised. They've actually never seen the Rivet stage on Donkey Kong. So, you know, like I said, I grew up in the 80s. I thought, like, everyone played this and beat this, and he's the same age as me, and he's never seen this level. That's actually a quote from Billy Mitchell in the documentary, The King of Kong. He says that the game is so fast and furious, most people won't ever see the second elevator stage. Most people don't play longer on one quarter than like 2 minutes. And if you think about it, it's true. Like, Donkey Kong on the arcade was pretty tough. It was definitely a quarter eater. And that's it, boys. That's all she wrote. 56,700 was my high score for that day. Now, I have played again, and I didn't record it, but, you know, I think I've got 59,000-ish now and change. You know, I write it down in my planning book on the side, along with high scores for Pac-Man. So again, guys, free Donkey Kong, freekong.org if you'd like to give it a try. Comment down your favorite arcade cabinets, what your Donkey Kong scores are, and if there's any kind of videos you'd like to see upcoming on the channel. Also, don't forget to click on the left side if you'd like to see other Loch Ness Monster videos. I really appreciate you guys watching the video. Take care, have a great weekend.